got Josh Wilcox on the line with us. Josh, thanks for joining us. Of course, guy done a lot of things in the business. Sure he's going to fill us in on his career, working all over the place, doing things. Josh, first and foremost, thank you for joining me. How you doing on this fine afternoon?
Oh, I'm doing great, Brandon. Thanks a lot. I've had, for a short career, I had some interesting journeys and met a lot of great people and really got entwined into the, one of my favorite things of all time, and that's professional wrestling and the sport itself. And the people I know and have met and been in contact with are some of the legendary people, and even some of the people that are, so well regarded, maybe on the underground, not as popular in terms of star name, but guys that had really contributed to the business and deep respect and understanding for what goes on in this business. And I think that's what it is. I just have a tremendous amount of respect for what these guys, the top level, do, and for what guys, went through to get there to those points. And the athleticism, the showmanship, and just the product that's put on and what you see. And when you see a true great match and you know it, those type of things, rather than having someone have to tell you those things. And when you can really tell those things, that means a little bit more.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing, learning the art and just kind of experiencing the whole thing. I guess I'll kind of start where I kind of start with everyone. I mean, what made you want to get into the business, and what's kind of your first, memories of, wrestling growing up or what have you? Just what got you even interested at all?
I mean, I think, if one of my first recollections of watching on television is either Andre getting his hair cut or one of the early ones I have is Ron Bass cutting up Bruce the Barber, where they exited over who Ron Bass was here in Portland, as I learned later. And so things like that, I would stay up and try to stay up for main events. But my father knew Don Owen. So as a young kid, I always wanted to go to those and got to go to a couple matches. Always had the magazine, but I was a football kid. I played football at the University of Oregon on a football scholarship. My father is Dave Wilcox, who is in the Hall of Fame, played for the 49ers. And, something wrestling, I always talked about it, something that I always wanted to do. And I had passion and just a love for the business. Back then, I would watch Monday Night Raw, not Monday Night Football, and kid around for that. And I went to the NFL Combine. Got a tryout with the Vikings, got cut, and right before I had left, I met Matt Bourne, who was doing a show with I believe Sandy Barr at the time over in Vancouver, but Brian Cox, Mark Sawyer. I met those guys. Got to know him a little bit, and at the same time, Jeff Kafori was starting to put stuff on. I got cut from the Vikings, and in 1997, I was back here working for the employee store retail at Nike, and I decided, hey, I've been talking about doing this thing. I'm not playing football. Why not give it a shot?
Wow, that's amazing. And you mentioned playing for the Ducks and trying to going with the whole football experience. And then, of course, at this time, was the Portland Wrestling, was it still like the Don Owen promotion as far as?
No. That was they were attempting a little bit to try to do something. And that was the hard part for me, was the knowing the Owens family. But this, Don Owens was no longer part of this. And nothing against Ivan and Jeff Kafori, who I worked for, did a good job. No television. They had a little bit later on. I was there from November 1st, 97 till January 98, and then I actually went to play in NFL Europe. Then I played arena football, played 2 years for the Saints, then I went and trained with Dory Funk for a couple weeks, and then I had a tryout power plant, and then yada, ended up in XFL, and then OVW. But back to the Portland side, I mean, I grew up a huge Billy Jack Haynes, Rip Oliver. I didn't have Channel 12 or they had access to it, so I'd go to a friend's house and watch that stuff, and the 2 out of 3 Falls. And as I've gotten to know Barry later on, it's been fascinating just to find out more about the history. And I actually own Buddy Rose's robe man room right now.
Awesome.
So, stuff like that to me, and having to know, I've got to meet Roddy Piper, training under Matt Bourne, stuff like that. And, after, training with Dory for a little bit, stuff like those things to me. I trained with Rip Oliver a little bit when I was in OVW. Or not Rip Oliver, but Rip Rogers. I mean, these are guys I used to watch.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, that's kind of more or less where I was going as far as talking about, the whole, coming up in Portland and everything, because, historically, of course, used to be quite a huge, hotbed, of course, before, WWE nationalized everything. And then it's been on life support kind of ever since then. But it seemed like when you were breaking in that there was somewhat of a resurgence. I mean, was that kind of feel like that?
I think, there was an attempt to do that. I mean, they were drawing 200, 250, and then my first show drew over 700. So, there was some chance to try to get going. I think they were looking at doing that. I really have no idea. I wasn't here long enough. I mean, I was here a short time. I didn't have much training. I was extremely green in the ring. I was just using kind of my name and the fact that people knew who I was and that I loved wrestling and that I could get on the radio shows and talk about it. And something that I loved, and I wasn't joking about it. I seriously enjoyed it. But I don't know what happened where it got to that point. But they were trying to get going again, and it was a lot of talk and all those types of things. But I think as everyone's seen, so hard to do business. I mean, you got to have some pockets. And
right.
The Owens were smart. They figured it out. And, to this day, Barry still reminisces about old stories. And it's really cool to sit and talk to him about his guys that went through here. And, you find out, and, the Iron Sheik went through here. Or, Gorgeous George. Or, how did the Bushwhackers, the sheep herders become the sheep herders? Well, I think something has to do with Don Owen, being a sheep farmer. And stuff like that. And it just, to me, it's just, wow, that started in the places I used to go and read all the stories. And actually, in the sports page, they put the results up. So every Saturday morning, man, I'd want to see if fresh beef teams go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, and that's the thing. I mean, I don't know. It's something I tend to talk about with a few people, especially that have a history, on the West Coast, just hoping for the resurgence and everything. And, from there, what was kind of the next step? I mean, I know that there was, you mentioned, like NFL Europe and XFL.
Yeah,
I mean, what came next?
Well, for me, it was, I went NFL Europe straight after. I won the tag belt with Brian Cox and Eugene. And then I actually won the title in La Pine. This is on January '98. And those, I didn't deserve those by my standards. I wasn't extremely happy with it. I understood it. I guess you just go with what they say. It's a pretty cool honor as a young kid. Being a Portland wrestling fan, say you were the Portland, kind of, I don't know what the lineage is, but at some point, Portland champ and the tag champ. But NFL Europe made the team in Amsterdam. Kurt Warner, quarterback for the Rams, was my roommate for halftime. So it was probably a good thing for me. And then went to arena football here in Portland. And then actually the Saints called, went down to New Orleans, made the practice squad, and then played 3 games, and then played in the next season. Hurt my shoulder. Decided, the NFL probably wasn't going to be my career, keep going. Between that time, I sent a letter to Jim Ross and WWE expressing interest on what I should do, or, if I want to make this serious move, what I should do. And he wrote me a letter back with some, I keep just doing this and this, and I talked to somebody in the office. So I went down to, I'd met somebody who put me in contact when I was in New Orleans with ECW. And that was just a blessing in disguise for me. It was, talk about the dream come true. I ended up getting beat up by Dusty Rhodes. So things like that kind of just fall into place.
Yeah, absolutely. So just kind of it was just kind of a happenstance sort of a thing, you know, just you feel like you were in the right place at the right time? How did that, like,
I would say I was a little bit, I used to read a website a lot when websites were first coming out, and I found OneWrestling.com, which come to find out later on, I think Joey Styles on part of it or something like that. And they were really into the ECW style. I used to go home to my parents' house in Eugene and watch some of that, some of the pay-per-views, ordered some tapes. And I was like, hey, man, you know, I don't know if you know this, but I'm the Saints, a little bit of pro wrestling. I played the Giants one year, and they actually put the footage on Fox. So my footage from the fairgrounds in Eugene was on Fox, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
They were doing some commentating on that. And that was always kind of mentioned in some of the stories. But he's like, hey, you know, ECW in town, you want to go? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'd love to go. So in 1998, they were down in Homa, and Kyle Turley, who was a rookie at the time, and we drove down there, and they opened up with open arms and let us in, and everybody was just super nice. Got to know guys, and Joey Styles was just phenomenal, great guy, and Tommy Dreamer, and, you know, Paul E. was Paul E. He was great, and Simon Diamond, who's still a good friend of mine, got to know him very well. Just open arms, and it was real fun to be there. We shot an angle with Steve Reno and Rhino, which was great. And, you know, here I am on ECW, like, doing a pull apart with Rhino and Carino and me and Turley, and I'm like, this is awesome. You know, here I am, this like geek out type of moment, because ECW was ECW at the time. This isn't, you know, that was the bang. So it was pretty fun. After my 2000 or 99 season, they'd come back to New Orleans, and I'd had shoulder surgery a couple weeks before that. I had to play through it, and I knew that was coming, but I really want to do something. So I called up Joey, and I said, what happens if I mean, would it be kind of funny if someone turned bad in New Orleans and New Jersey? They left, supposedly Paul, or, you know, I don't know who. They really loved the idea, so kind of came up with the plan that I team with Dreamer against Carino and Rhino, and tell the fans what I thought. And pretty easy for me because I couldn't do a whole lot. And tagged me in and slid in a chair. Oh, Mr. Jack Victory, but he slid it to me and made some money off the deal.
Wow.
And then told the New Orleans Saints fans kind of what I thought. So I thought it would be fun to do. I thought it would be, hey, let's you know, that'd be kind of corny. To me, it'd be corny if New Orleans Saints guy wins in New Orleans. So what's the opposite of that?
Right.
Ooh, this guy flipping them off and saying, you know, you suck. I don't suck, you suck.
Right. Wow, that's great stuff.
Yeah, and then, well, at the time, Carino was in a deal with Dusty Rhodes, so do something. Dusty Rhodes comes in and hits me with a couple elbows, and then I got the bionic drop. I think he laid one on for good measure. It didn't hurt, but, you know, to say Dusty Rhodes dropped the bionic elbow on you in the ring, for a football guy that grew up like that and a wrestling super fan that used to read magazines and saw Dusty Rhodes in a cage match in Portland, Oregon, to me, that was one of the special moments in my life.
Oh, absolutely. You can't beat that. You can't beat that with a stick, no doubt.
Yeah.
So after ECW, what was to come next after that? I know the XFL was in there somewhere, but was that?
Yeah, well, actually, that was the XFL. I went to 3 of Joey Funk's training camps down in Ocala, Florida. I'd met a couple people through ECW that suggested, and I looked around, and in my mindset, I knew football wasn't going to be the best thing. But I need to go somewhere where I was going to be hoodwinked for $3,000. And I looked at Joey Funk, who'd done dojos for the WWE, and in my mind, I said, if I go down to these things and I talk to them, yeah, I might pay a little bit, but if I go down and get the fundamentals, isn't that what I kind of need to see if I'm going to be good at this? I wasn't going to be a lifer in that thing. I'm not, you know, my body was already beat up walking into the thing. I wasn't going to be a guy at Indies right now. I'm nothing against them, but I chose not to choose that path. I have a lot of respect and a lot of admiration for guys that do that stuff. I have friends that do it, but my body was beat up before I got into this thing. So I did a couple of Doors camps. A guy named Fred Curry was down there. Actually, Chris Hero was there, which was pretty amazing. Did a couple of those. My first one, my shoulder still wasn't really good, but I learned a lot of basic fundamentals from Dory Funk. I flew in a couple days early, and Adam Windsor there, and I'm just basically, he was kind of my football tackling dummy. They're getting chopped by Dory Funk, the NWA heavyweight champion. Terry Funk's brother, Dory Funk, Senior is his dad, the guy who ran on Railroad. What kind of one-on-one teaching can you get? And if you can't apply that, then you got problems.
Wow. So, I bet that was an experience all in of itself, and that's a good call. I mean, like you said, you mentioned, of course, so many wrestling, schools and camps, especially around that time, just going up,
That was 2000, yeah. People were, I was smart. I was smart about it, and I talked to a couple people, and OVW at the time was still just starting out. I think Rico might have been up there at the time, and I was like, well, somebody was a shot. I was still in New Orleans. I'm going to go train a couple times with Dory. So went down there. Patterson was there once. Comes back again. And I'd been working out and, been able to lift. And he's like, yeah, I'm looking good. And, and then Jim Barnett was there, one of them. And my boy. And then, somehow my name got to WCW. Got a phone call from someone one day saying, hey, would you love to fly down to the power plant and try it out? Okay, what do I do? So I'll fly down, go down there, talk to a guy, and he's like, where you go? And it was Paul Orndorff and Sarge. So here I am, training with these guys, and guys down in the power plant. Didn't get signed, but great opportunity. Came back, trained for the XFL, made the XFL. Saw Jim Ross. Mr. Ross, how you doing? I'm Josh Wilcox. Josh, you still have interest in being in the business? Yes, sir. After this doesn't work out, I'd love to possibly see what happens. So, kind of kept in contact with them as we played through the seasons. Went through there, came back. I wrestled a show up here for Roddy Piper in Eugene, Battle Royal with Kurt Hennig, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Bourne and Valentine on the card, Bruce O'Brien, lots of guys that did this Battle Royal gimmick thing. And then I did a show at UPW against Adam Pearce, who's now still wrestling and was the NWA heavyweight champ. He wrestled in front of Jim Ross, and basically, that got me signed. Jim Ross said, hey, give me your number. And, yeah, it was then because the day the XFL opened, he called, Dennis Brink called, said, would you be interested in signing with the developmental contract? I said, why not? And there you go. There I was sent. I was off and getting ready to go off to Louisville, Kentucky.
That's amazing. Yes, at the time, of course, that was when OVW was the farm ground for WWE,
Dude, I was there at the prime time, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I roll in there. I was there for 3 months. I mean, physically, my body stayed up, and I have no misgivings about that. I've had neck surgeries. I've had 3 shoulder surgeries. I've had a couple of, spine injections. I've had all kinds of things. If I kept wrestling, it would have got worse. My back, everything. Body wasn't meant for it. But I was down there with guys that are the kings or are Hall of Famers or the kings of my generation. John Cena I wrestled at UPW show with was there. Randy Orton, Bud Pete. I mean, you're talking about guys, just, there you go. And, maybe somebody else who went to the University of Minnesota, who was probably one of the is the best athlete I've ever seen in my entire life.
Right.
And I've been around professional football players. I've been around, but a guy that and I have a tremendous amount of respect for everyone. Never had a problem with anybody. Brock Lesnar is who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Nick Dinsmore, who was one of the most underrated workers of all time. Rip Rogers teached me down there. Danny Davis, Jim Cornette. I mean, think about that. Think about where the places that I've been to soak up knowledge and just sit there. Like, and Mark Henry was down there. Big Show was down there. Man, who else? I would sit there and just soak up knowledge. I mean, that's kind of, I used whatever I learned in football to sit there and be quiet.
So overall, had a really good experience. Of course, it sounds like that pretty much everywhere you went, you know, I mean, got along good. You know, never really had any bad run-ins with anybody, you would say, or?
No, I don't think so. I think in Portland, some of the guys didn't like that I was getting the press or whatever, and wasn't sure that I should get the belts, but I told them I didn't want the belts, so I'm sorry, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There might have been some of that, but I always tried to just be myself, and I wasn't too worried about being liked. Not one of my top priorities in life. You treat people how you want to be treated, and it works out, or it doesn't, you know.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, it sounds like you went into it very level-headed, and, you know, and that obviously benefited, and like you said, you know, just there to be quiet and soak up the knowledge and everything. One thing I kind of wanted to get back to and kind of touch on a little bit, we skimmed on the XFL. I mean, of course, I mean, you're on the team that won the championship there, and, you know, a lot of people put it over as like, you know, what you know, whatever it is, you know, Vince McMahon's failed venture, you know. I mean, while you were playing there, what was the mood of it there? I mean, did you guys, you know, compared to the other places you have played, you know, were the guys excited to be doing that? I mean, what kind of overall experience was that?
Oh, man. It's like college football getting paid.
Yeah.
I mean, people do not give Vince McMahon enough credit for what he did. I mean, the mass media was against him. He loved that role. He enjoyed that. He put up half the money to do it. And it turned into just a television show, let's be honest. Ratings were good, it would stick around. Then again, if we wouldn't have pissed off J-Lo going through her entire life, I mean, there was a TV show, and it was put together very shortly. You know, I don't know what people expected it to be like the NFL. I mean, you had, you know, a little bit of added on WWE style, and so I don't know what the expectations were. It's still football. And as it got better, but the players, oh man, I enjoyed the hell out of it. I still keep in contact with a bunch of my XFL players and teammates, and coaches and guys. And I mean, I wish they'd do a 30 for 30 because it's this perception of, hey, it sucked and whatever else. Talk to the players that played in the thing.
Right, yeah,
and,
exactly.
Number one, the instant thing that failed was number one when they showed that 400-pound fat guy trying to run a 40. Everybody thinks it's a joke, and then Vince is, you know, out there saying stuff, and then as we start out, we had great ratings, but then after that, downhill, everything sucked. Football's horrible last couple weeks. You see better football, but no one's going to watch. If it would have, you know, there needs to be some sort of developmental league. I don't think Vince and NFL would ever work together like that. But, I mean, it was so much camera stuff they use now, so much technology. All the cameras over the fields, where'd that come from?
Right, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And, you know, so much of what the entertainment value of football is now. I mean, for the NFL to say, no, we didn't look at some of those things. The NFL didn't like it. I know that. For them to no one say that the XFL provided anything good for football or it was just a joke. All the players got paid. You know, it's not like the USFL where guys got, you know, had to wait for checks. We got paid.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy put up his money. And you have to be given credit for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's a really awesome point that I'm glad that we brought up and that you were able to make on that, you know, because perception of it, you know, is just like this failed venture. But, you know, that's the thing that people don't think about, you know, is that there are so many players, guys that were going out there and putting out the effort, you know, like yourself. And, you know,
I mean, we were winning, so I was making more money, but I got to live in L.A. for 6 months, met a bunch of good dudes, played football, and had a good time, and they took care of you. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, if you were hurt, they took care of you, and, you know, I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was a fun season. I won a championship. It was my last time playing football. Met great people. It was, you know, it was so much fun, and I had the opportunity to do it, and I can remember walking up to him, before the championship game and tapping him on the shoulder and saying, man, he didn't know who I was, so thank you very much for this opportunity.
Wow, that's awesome.
You know, yeah, that's just kind of the way I worked. It was kind of what you're supposed to do.
So, you know, you mentioned that, you know, just the body wasn't holding up, you know, down in OVW, right? And so you just kind of came to a point where you just decided that it was enough. And
yeah, we did some physical therapy, tried some stuff out. I worked with Bull Buchanan a little bit in the ring, and Johnny Ace was there. Everybody was like, "Get your back fixed," and everybody seemed to be, you know, wanting me to get right. So I went home for a while. I'm sure some guys said I would have wussed, couldn't handle it. I don't, whatever. And then went to their first tryout camp they had in Cincinnati. Got called to go to that, where Matt Morgan, AJ Styles, who else was there? Chad Collier. Tomko.
All right, Tyson Tomko, yeah.
Yeah, there's something like that. There was a little tryout camp, and my body still didn't work, and I wasn't moving well, so they had Bill DeMott, Les Thatcher, Burnett was there, Danny Davis, Arn Anderson, Al Snow, all came there, and, you know, it didn't work out. Kevin Kelly was there. I knew. Dustin Credible was there, and Raven, they were cool with me. Charlie Haas was there, super nice guy. He got hurt. Dylan got up and gave him a seat, so everybody got yelled at. So I was like, oh, man, sorry. I had actually tried to say, hey, man, you all right? So, you know, I wasn't probably into it. I probably owe WWE some money for sending me out there, but appreciate the opportunity. And after that, I hung them up and actually got a call a couple months later from TNA. And they were starting something new. Would I be interested? And I said, no, I'm good.
You know, do you still watch the product nowadays at all?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I still have friends in TNA. I've been to a couple shows down in Orlando a couple years ago backstage. Of course, Simon Dunn was working there. D'Lo was working there. I think Dreamer works there now. But a buddy of mine, and met the old Don West, so that was phenomenal. In 1 month, or a couple months, I met Don West and Ric Flair, both Will Ferrell parodies. I couldn't imagine. Hit me right on the head. But I go to some WWE shows up here, watch, WrestleMania. I got that WWE channel to flip around to. I want Vice, so I can watch old stuff. And, yeah, I mean, I keep track a little bit. I don't obsessively watch it, but I keep track and watch guys and, you know, watch see if Cal Bishop's doing anything down in NXT, and hopefully he does well. Get from Oregon State. And around here, I helped out with Roddy's promotion last year as much as I could do. And then I also, in touch with Jeremy Blanchard, who's a good friend of mine. Of course, Matt Bourne passing this year didn't really, wasn't the greatest thing, but grappler, of course. So, yeah, I mean, I stay in touch and I keep low, but I keep an eye out. How's that?
Absolutely. And, of course, you're semi-involved with kind of the Portland wrestling scene now, aren't you? Or
yeah, we're working some of that stuff out, but those new guys running it, we're talking about, I think, July 5th, they have a show. I'm trying to make it over there, see what's going on. I don't know if Scrap Iron's going to be there or not, but Jeremy Blanchard, anytime I can help out him and Lenny and those guys down WCWC, right? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I thought that I had read somewhere where you were doing work with them, and that's why I had mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's...
We have definitely been in contact, just schedule-wise, and, with my radio shift now because I'm doing more football stuff. But yeah, definitely going to try to do something, help them out, and be involved as much as I can.
And that's also something I wanted to transition to too, as far as like after career projects. Of course, you mentioned the radio show and everything. I'll talk a little bit about how that came about and plug it and everything. And
oh yeah, no, I mean I've been so lucky in life. I had the wrestling, and then that didn't work out. I worked in San Diego for a while. Moved back, worked in Eugene, Oregon, where I grew up in Junction City. Moved down to Texas for a while, be with my wife-to-be. Moved to Chicago, worked out for companies for 6 years, ended up in Sacramento. They moved me up here to Portland, Oregon. Been doing some stuff for Comcast with 1080 The Fan, doing Comcast football. 1080 The Fan had an opening for a spot, went in there, interviewed for it, had it just for 2 years as of June 4th. So I have 2 years that I worked full-time with Travis Demers on 1080 The Fan, ESPN Radio in Portland. And now I am their football insider, and so I'll be doing reports. I have a football show coming up this fall with Dusty Hara from on Thursday nights, and helping them trying to find some insight on what the Ducks and other teams are doing.
That's awesome.
Of course, hopefully hopping on some more Comcast stuff. Done a couple arena games, which has been phenomenal, and just keeping out there as long as I can keep on keeping on, and I'll make money where I can. But right now, life is good, so that's all I can say.
That was awesome. I think that's about it as far as what I have. I mean, do you have any other kind of like cool little road story or rib or anything you want to share?
Nothing really. I mean, I didn't have a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah. Not really involved in a whole lot of that.
I stayed away from some of that. I mean, I had beers with the fellas, but
right.
Yeah, got to meet Goldberg and got to meet a lot of cool people backstage at WCW shows. So backstage when Flair won the title against Jarrett, so stuff like that's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, Josh, thank you very much for joining me. Check out his projects, WCWC, Comcast Network, right? Also, you said it's still 1080 The Fan, right?
1080 The Fan, and always on Twitter at Real Josh Wilcox.
Awesome. Well, the Wrestling Mark thanks you for talking with us, and Josh, you have a great night, all righty?
All right, man. Thanks a lot, bud.